Hey there, welcome to another episode of Coffee Solo on this Friday, October 3rd, 2025. We are recording at 10:07 Pacific time, 10:07 p.m. Pacific time, making this episode 2025 10:03:01. 2025 10:03:01. I don't know, I've not received any feedback on my episode numbering scheme, but it's fine. You really should never have to look that up, but you know when we're recording this. Still having YouTube problems, so that if I publish something on YouTube via the RSS feed for this audio program, it does it successfully. It publishes it, makes it public, right there in the name, published, or in the label. And then for some reason, and this is a known problem, it gets set to private. I will say automatically, but erroneously. So sometime later, I need to flip it back. So if you see an episode that suddenly appears sometime the following day with yesterday's date as the episode, that might be what's going on. Anyway, welcome to another episode. It's Friday night. Perfect time for some podcast production. I really need to flip my desk around and set up a couple of lights that I have and the camera and get Hugo Floss rolling. So hopefully that will happen sometime soon. We're right in the middle of Hacktoberfest. Actually, we're right at the beginning. It started on Wednesday. We're not in the middle of it. It's three full days into it. We need to get Project Act out there. So I have a ton of work to do so I can get it into any sort of shape so that people can contribute. But as I've been kind of mentally building this up, I'm kind of getting into it again. I've been sort of letting it sit for a while. So that's, we'll see where that goes. Anyway, today's title, I've only done the title and a summary. The title, Cohesion, actually has to do with an article I just found earlier today that will be one of the focal items of the next upcoming episode of Cafe Genius Impressarios. So Cohesion, the summary for today's episode, are we at war with Portland and Venezuela now? It's so difficult to keep track. In the meantime, I wrote man time. In the meantime, I found an interesting article for the next episode of Impressarios, and there you go. Like I'm repeating myself or something. The links, I'm adjusting them so that they are less, or fewer, I should say, less to read or sift through, fewer links. So Coffee Solo can be found at my personal website, danhugo.com. It's not like a big thing. I didn't make a separate domain and all that. There is a Quaggling Sand. There is an FFS Talk. There is a Cafe Genius. No such Coffee Solo. Why? Because Coffee Solo was supposed to be published on Ko-fi.com. So it was kind of a way to connect with that platform and anyone who would find me via there or who would go to that profile, the posts section, ko-fi.com/danhugo, ko-fi.com/danhugo. It's like a reflex to say that, /posts if you want to get the Coffee Solo episode. So Coffee Solo is published there first, but then I publish it to Spotify, which then automatically has an RSS feed. It appears in Apple Podcasts. It appears in Amazon Podcasts. It appears somewhere else. There's an RSS feed that it maintains. And then I have YouTube pull from that RSS feed to build up the podcast content on the Coffee Solo podcast tab, I guess, playlist. And that is at youtube.com/danhugo, @danhugo. So basically Coffee Solo and Buy Me an Update are just sort of personal projects, good times. So there you go. So Coffee Solo home is really danhugo.com. And then I will probably have a danhugo.com/Coffee Solo or something. But if you visit that website, you'll see I'm like 2 or 3 weeks now behind on making it look nice. Just too much to do. I did kind of get going on Tailwind. There's Tailscale for networks and Tailwind for CES. So Tailwind, it's not that hard. It's just that the number of classes is daunting, and it's a different way of doing things. But so I wanted to kind of get my head wrapped around that. So now I just have to be creative, and that's like a whole different gearbox to shift gears into. For me, I'm not an aesthetic person. I'm not a web designer. I'm a web programmer in general. At At the same time, I have some schema ideas for my PostgreSQL, heavily schema-based database. Anyway, that's for another time. Anyway, the other link, profile page linking everything, it used to be called Buy Dan a Coffee. It's at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. It's just a freeform profile page with links to all of my audio programming content, the home pages for each, the YouTube links for each. I could probably put the Apple and Amazon and whatnot on there. Maybe I should do that at some point. But in the meantime, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. No need to spend any money in any of these sites. It's all for free. There are some affiliate links. If you click on those and buy something, they're all for things I use, so I'm endorsing all of them. Coffee beans that I like and so on. So not a huge deal. Anyway, I don't want this to go on too long because it is a Friday night and I have no shortage of things to do. But anyway, the Cohesion article, I'll just summarize it very briefly because I only read it once and I need to follow up and see, a little bit more than one quick read through. I would say I skimmed it. But the take home, they looked at successful cities on the West Coast and on the East Coast, and even lovely Las Vegas doesn't count. But they looked at the Bay Area, they looked at New York. What makes these cities successful? And they did make a note of the speed of change and adapting to modern times on the West Coast. But in general, cities or city-like regions that manage to adapt to modernity. I believe the article looked at 170 years of various historical data to arrive at this. And what their hypothesis is that cities or city-like regions, I think they just say cities, but not everything is a city. Las Vegas is a city, but the part that you know about is not Las Vegas, for example. It's in Clark County. Anyway, the places that can keep up and adapt to modernity and are considered successful are places that not only adapt to the modernity, but they are able to do it while maintaining cohesion with the established strengths of each place. So rather than ditching or risking damage to the existing economic infrastructure and small businesses and whatnot, things are cohesive. They fit into an overarching plan. So that's my take on one quick read. The reason I'm kind of, I'm not going to say excited about it, but it's interesting to me, and I'm mentioning it here because I would like to create a new episode of Cafe Genius Impressarios for this coming Friday. So that will be October 10th, sometime in the morning, hopefully. And I will make that episode about this article and the general notion, because what I've been saying is if Vegas has leaned in so heavily on the fun economy, gaming, professional sports, wait, what are they? I have 5. I think they officially have 3 pillars. So I put tourism, gaming, that's like gambling, professional sports, and yes, you can gamble on professional sports, but it's a separate category, tourism and entertainment. So I don't think they include tourism and entertainment, but the fun economy includes people coming here and visiting. They don't need to necessarily do those other things. They may want to just come here and watch a show at the Sphere, or they may come here to go hiking in the Red Rock area, or they may come here to go shopping. So I think entertainment and tourism are as different as gaming and professional sports, so you can't just lump them all together. Anyway, that's my take. So if you do something to put those at risk, for example, let's do Formula One and make this place unattractive to visitors for 2 months for road construction, taking the trees off of the sidewalk by the Bellagio, covering up the Venetian gondola pool for seating or something, whatever they did. So they transform the city, or that region, the Strip, and a little bit of other parts of the not city of Las Vegas, but that region. And it affects small businesses, but it affects tourism. There may be some pricing weirdness, which is already a problem. So I just think, that's an example of a lack of cohesion. So when I hear things like we're going to be the next Silicon Valley and Hollywood 2.0, and we're going to become a biotech research hub, it's like those things may conflict with each other. They're not necessarily cohesive. And so the point of cohesion is to not if you want to look at an ecosystem like a biological ecosystem, if you introduce an invasive species, it may destroy the existing fauna and or flora that are in the ecosystem. So if you say, hey, let's make this the next Silicon Valley, let's have a bunch of rich people meet at some guy's house every year, and it's invitation only, and the tickets are $1,000, so we only want the cool people, and let's talk about how we could extract money from Vegas. These are people that were not part of the original Silicon Valley from the 90s. I'm not going to say that I was there, but I was there. And so when I hear these are people who figure, oh, we can just make this like the Silicon Valley of 2008 or today. They're standing on the shoulders of giants, as Sir Isaac Newton might suggest, and I think they're placing the existing fun economy at risk. Gentrification is a real thing. I watched it happen in Silicon Valley. So I just think, and this is where my notion of, rather than trying to be the next Silicon Valley, we could be trying to be a better Las Vegas. And there is certainly room to do that. A lot of room above that we can try to aim for. So yeah, the cohesion thing is interesting. It's why I suggest that we should take advantage of the fun economy. And to be honest, I think the UAV, is that what it is? Is it unmanned or whatever, autonomous vehicles? So the drones are a big thing, and usually you would automatically think airborne, but self-driving vehicles, so autonomous vehicles, are interesting because they've been legal to operate on the streets in Vegas with various caveats. But when the state of Nevada became one of the official test sites for airborne drones, they basically had laws, or at least were moving towards laws that made drone testing, drone usage, so unmanned autonomous vehicles, not only airborne, but vehicles, like ground vehicles, testable. You could try them out and operate them in certain parts and with safety concerns taken care of or in some way. And anyway, so we've had in various forms and various levels of productization, like, early testing, maybe there was one autonomous vehicle driving around downtown, and I think it actually had a collision with a truck, like a small moving truck, like what do you call it, like cargo truck, kind of like a U-Haul style, like a small vehicle like that. And it was like, moving at 10 miles an hour or something. But that was a collision between a self-driving vehicle and a truck, only in Vegas. And it stayed in Vegas, I think. So anyway, the pursuit of UAV operation with normal people, with people driving in vehicles, people driving vehicles, having drones flying around where people are on the strip, downtown, residential areas, and so on. I think I read that City of Las Vegas is going to introduce drones for, not armed, not yet, but drones with red and blue lights on them that will take part in a reconnaissance, for example. They may fly around and observe and protect or something. I don't know. So anyway, having drones in Vegas makes sense because there are people here from all over. I would say all over the world, but that may not be true lately. But there are people from from all over the world. One of those. So you basically are exposing people to new ideas, new technologies, new products, new services. You don't go to where they are, they come to here. So you may as well, like I always wonder, why not launch a new food item at a restaurant, like a chain restaurant? Why don't they do it in Vegas? And I think it's because they don't want everybody to be exposed to it. They want to have like a controlled release of a new hamburger, a new beverage. Remember that, what was it called? McDonald's had I'm totally spacing on the name, but they had like a coffee shop spin-off, and it was Michigan or something? McDonald's coffee shop experiment, maybe? Cosmix. C-O-S, capital M-C, apostrophe S. Cosmix. They closed the actual store. It was somewhere, I can't remember where it was. It was somewhere like in the Midwest or something. Wait. I know, I'm sorry, I'm totally killing the mood right now. Illinois, okay, Bolingbrook, Illinois, in 2023, I think. So maybe if you open it and by the way, McDonald's is basically in Chicago. That's like where the Hamburger University is and everything. So maybe that's also a factor. But I just noticed that a lot of, in the food space, maybe McDonald's or Vegas, one of those. Maybe Vegas is too much. Maybe it has too many people from too many places, and maybe it's like a less controlled test area. Like if I want to test a new product, you go to a lower volume place or where traffic is more predictable and you can measure their responses over a smaller range or something. So I guess I can see that. But on the other hand, if you're going to try out drones and self-driving vehicles, why not let people from all over experience them? So they used to have them at CES a couple of years ago where it would take you from one building to the next. So that was like a low energy test, right? Use it as like a people mover of sorts. And of course we have the boring tunnel, which is moronic, but that's another thing. So Cohesion, I just think that some of this stuff that they come up with here, let's be the next Hollywood 2.0. Okay. Is that going to fit into the fun economy? Well, no. It might actually gentrify some parts of the area. Okay, that doesn't seem good. So we'll price people out of working in the fun economy. Maybe. And then what is the other one? Oh, healthcare. Well, healthcare is already 25% of the economy of the greater Vegas area. Whatever that really means. That could be an actual patients in a bed or being examined or some other medical treatment taking place. It could be the infrastructure on healthcare. It could be the research and development of new healthcare related products or services. So I don't know how that breaks down in the Vegas area. That's something to look into in general. But if you want to build something around that, but if you want to make healthcare, like if you're going to build like a biotech research hub and bring in more so whenever you bring in high price talent, I think you inorganically and negatively impact the economy of a locality. And as I always tell people, if you're going to import talent, which is always the fallback, if you need to hire people, we can just import talent. What that is another way of saying we don't have enough smart people here. But if you develop the talent pool, and that's why I always talk about that. Anyway, so listen to Cafe Genius Impressarios this week. You can find a link to that on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, or you can visit cafegenius.org. CAFFEGENIUS, cafegenius.org. I got to make sure that site, I got to make sure all my sites are accessible. The nice thing about audio is that you can hear it, even if you can't read my website. And YouTube has subtitles, which is nice. So if you can't hear it, you can read it. So the YouTube generating those gratis is a nice feature. Okay, enough about that. I've been watching Not Leaving Las Vegas. He started abbreviating it NLLV, which is fine. I mean, that is correct. Not Leaving Las Vegas. It's a play on Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage and Elizabeth Shue, the movie. And so Not Leaving Las Vegas. I think he said he's lived here for 21 years. His name's Steven. And he is a character. And the reason I'm commenting on him, because I'm not really interested in promoting YouTubers in Vegas myself. There's a whole infrastructure in place for self-promotion on their own and some cross-promotion. In some cases, it's alleged that LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, pays some content creators to promote certain things about Vegas. I have seen that written in some places, so I have stated it as fact based on what I have seen in those instances. I don't know if it's an ongoing thing. So, I mean, it would make sense that LVCVA would place ads, for example, or paid promotional content. So that's not too ridiculous. Now, do the content creators disclose it? That's another question entirely. Most content creators here will accept money for promoting a location or an event or something. They basically stick to the strip or nearby. I don't see any content creators here looking at the startup scene, a Hollywood 2.0. Maybe that stuff's too bizarre. But anyway, so Not Leaving Las Vegas. The thing that I like about that show, that program, that channel, on the weekends, he wanders around on the strip mostly and sometimes downtown. So I can see what I'm missing out on by not traveling down there. I haven't been to the strip in months. I haven't been downtown in fewer months, but it has been a while. So yeah, I just haven't been wandering around. I want to say it was February. I think it was February. So anyway, I should get down there, but Not Leaving Las Vegas. It's interesting, and I could literally turn off the audio and probably be happier watching it. But I find it interesting for at least two reasons. One, he is actually out and about capturing and streaming live video on a regular basis. And that is the sort of thing that can make for a successful product or service in general: consistency and concern about the quality of your offering. So he's very concerned about audio quality, video quality. He's investing in equipment, and he pays attention to signal. And he, when people say, "Oh, we can't hear you," or "There's a delay," he seems to take those things seriously. And he talks about buying new equipment to try to upgrade. These are the sorts of things that matter, right? Some people will appreciate that. If you just start watching his show at any point in time, you won't know the evolution, but still, concern about the quality of the product is a good thing, I think. And then he points out a lot of like current stuff, details, whatnot. So he's clearly keeping his finger on the pulse, as they say. So you can, if I do listen to the audio, he does make a comment here and there about a specific place. If he's walking by "Oh, this used to be that place is closing. I've heard that this is happening." So he's kind of got the current events and a little bit of historical. I think, like I said, he's lived here for 21 years, I think, something on that magnitude. So 8 or 9 years longer than me. And I find those two things interesting, right? He does actually, he offers a reasonably well-produced product. And he does provide useful and interesting information. And so those are good things. I think the downside, and the reason I'm watching this is because I do have my aspirations about having a live stream show that will coincide, I suppose, or will kind of be orthogonal to, but so I guess I could say complementary to the in Las Vegas thing that I want to get going on a year ago. And so I'm watching his interactions with his audience because I have a feeling that my audience will be closer to his audience in some respects in the early days, given what I want to focus on in the early days of the In Las Vegas project. Over time, I think the audience would be a little bit more diverse, but I think the early adopters of something like what I'm proposing will kind of be of the ilk of like, I want to kind of know what's going on, and numbers and charts, calendars, like here's the date of this and the place and so on. For example, somebody asked him, could you publish your current location? And you can. So first of all, he's using an iPhone, which is probably fine. I assume that he could share his location with Google Maps or Apple Maps, perhaps. The problem with that is location sharing with those kind of assumes that you know the person you're sharing with. I think it's person to person. So that the capability exists, but the interface for it is not ideal. There's an application, which I'm not advertising right now, but I'm just saying it does exist. It's called Glimpse, Glympse. Well, I've been using that for years. My family uses it if you're like on a road trip. Like if I'm on the ground heading to where my parents live for the holidays or whatever, I can say, okay, here's where my current location, and I'm going to their home. So I put the destination. So when I reach the destination, there's a little da-da-da, he's arrived at the destination, and then it stops sharing the location. And you can share that link with the link to people, and they don't need to be using the Glimpse application or any other services. So they can view current location in a map on their browser, mobile or otherwise. So this, to me, if you want to share your location, is interesting. So that's a way to provide a service to his community that are watching him live stream. That's kind of interesting. So he doesn't know about this kind of stuff. And so I'm kind of interested to see what would happen if somebody who's actually tech savvy, if I may brag briefly, getting involved in this stuff, because his audience does seem to claim knowledge and make certain assertions. Same goes with economic concerns. And, I just talked about Cafe Genius Impressarios, been talking about this for ages. I watch his program because of those things. And I said I keep the volume down because even though, I would probably try to let people talk about whatever they want in a chat situation, or, I'm not going to say, oh, no, we're not going to talk about politics. I do that on my other programs because I'm not interested in going off topic. But if it's just going to be kind of an open forum or an open discussion, like, okay, sometimes that'll be relevant. I personally think talking about government is more important than politics, because politics is kind of it's like kayfabe, the wrestling World Wrestling Federation, where they put on the show. They're yelling at each other, "I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna throw you down, I'm gonna kick your butt," whatever. All the stuff that they're it's a performance, and it's usually, well, I will say this: it's that part is not real, right? It's all either scripted or at least ad-libbed with a theme. So everybody's kind of on the same page. Politics, I think, is similar, not the same. Government, however, is very practical. These are things that are actually happening, whichever side of the aisle you find yourself or whichever side you support. Government is a functional or dysfunctional entity that is having material impact on a great many things. So I think that's always fair game to talk about, policy and impact or lack thereof of either or both. But so yeah, oftentimes his audience will diverge into political discussion or political commentary, or worse. There's a whole thing because he's originally from Canada, Stephen. So there's a whole angle on Canada and tourism in Vegas at the present time. There's more stuff, and then there's some religious aspects. And so I kind of think that pub rules would make more sense. So as I've watched his show, like I said, I tend to find the audio conversation devolves. That's the other word I was looking for. Devolves into him blocking people. Okay, you're gone. And people picking on him, and he gets very short with them, and he says no religion, but then there's some religion. I'm not trying to pick on him too much, because I do think his show is interesting because of the attention he pays to not only the production, but some of the information he shares and some of the topics that he pursues and whatnot. But I'm also watching it because how you interact with a live audience online, that is a little bit more generic, right? If you watch streamers like, I'm not a big fan of Asmongold, Hassan, Vosh, who else? There's some more. It doesn't, whichever politics, whatever you want. They have an audience that's much more political. If you're making some content that's not political specifically, but generically, kind of anything goes. I think it's interesting to see what people are doing in that space. So yeah, not leaving Las Vegas. It's interesting to watch if you've never been to Vegas, or if you have been to Vegas. He does a pretty good job of kind of not geographically limited, but he's on foot. So, that's kind of, what are you gonna do? But it's interesting, and again, his imagery is pretty good. Occasionally there'll be some frame stuttering and drop, but that's the nature of network connections on the Strip. I think on the Strip his content is a little bit more iffy in certain connectivity areas, so the signal will just be not as good, and he knows that. People know that. It's unfortunate. Downtown, I think the signal's a little bit better, but his video quality is pretty good. It's enjoyable to watch. It's like being there. I don't even have to go downtown. So that's always nice. The government has shut down. So that was not negative. I think he's annoying sometimes. I'm not really interested in his religious or political commentary. And I think some of his economics conversations are a little odd. I don't know that they're... Anyway. But I think pub rules should apply like 99% of the time. The government is shut down right now. It has been since the 1st. Today's the 3rd. So interesting times. I think I did a whole episode on this specifically. I was in New York in 1996, was it? 95, 96, I think, 96. Newt Gingrich, Bill Clinton, government shut down. It was right before Christmas, and then it stayed shut down until after New Year's. So I had visited Manhattan with my college roommate, and we could not, it didn't really affect us too much. We could not go to the Statue of Liberty. So we kind of got stuck at Battery Park. After we got down there, like, oh, government's still shut down. This was when the internet was fresh. Like, it had just started making a thing out of itself. So there was no, let's just pull out our phones and check. So if you weren't watching the news all the time, and we were tourists, we were fully in tourist mode. So we didn't know what was going on. So we get down to Battery Park and we're like, oh, I guess it's still closed. Okay. So we ended up spending the whole day on top of the World Trade Center. So that was cool. And of course, an interesting collection of memories given what transpired only a few years later. So the government was shut down then. And that was, I think at the time, the longest. I think it was 35 days, 32 days, something like that. And I believe in the Trump administration, the first time the government shut down 3 times, I think, because today, this is the 4th, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, so I don't know. It's the topic of the day. I'm not sure if it's better or worse than talking about the Epstein files or the happenings in Utah at UVU or any number of other. Are we at war with Venezuela? I guess we're going to be. The chaos in Portland, which is actually not happening, even though people are talking about it like it's an invasion, and then people in Portland are like, nope, not yet. Haven't seen anything. The stuff at Quantico with Pete Hegseth, like all that stuff that is government right now. Like these are government functions that are taking place, military deployments, declarations of war or military action against other countries, pruning or culling of our upper management in the military for just all kinds of stuff is going on. It shouldn't matter what your politics or political views are, because these things are happening regardless. So it's really interesting to watch. And I do, like, a lot of my FFS talk programming has been leaning into these odd things where people are not informed. My air conditioner just came on. I'm going to leave it on because I'm going to wrap it up here. So you're probably going to hear a little extra hissing right now or some sort of noise. And so I'll apologize for that, but it's good enough to wrap up. Now, I don't really have anything to say about this stuff. It's just like the beginning of really paying attention, which I do anyway, but really paying attention to the impact of the shutdown, the acknowledgement of Project 2025 at this point, the cognitive dissonance, that too, the acuity, the mental acuity of some of the characters in our government, the abilities or lack of, just absolute chaos all the time. And I think we're missing out on getting productive things done for all this, and it's kind of a shame. But that's hopefully that's taken as just a normal observation. It doesn't have to be political. I think if this government, if this administration, and the congressional bodies that are seated, and any that are not yet, I think if they were trying to accomplish the goals that they're accomplishing now, but had any sort of competence and were following the law, and everybody was playing by the rules of the rules that are written down and the accepted norms and so on, I think there would be a very different conversation. But right now, it's just a question of like, somebody put it the other day. They said it's like a Watergate every day. And Watergate paralyzed the country for weeks, months. It was like earth-shattering, and now it's like I think everybody would be fine with, they broke into a hotel. That's good news, actually. Kind of a normal thing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of blowing up people in boats that are not enemy combatants or armed. So that is bad. That is problematic. But that's just one of so many things. So I don't want to talk about that much today. I think this is the sort of thing that Hugo Foss could talk about, but not in a political way. I think when you start being like, I'm on this side and you're on that side, I don't think it will be possible, but I think it should be possible to talk about actual events and actual policy and actual execution of policy. You could talk about like, okay, Boeing 737 MAX, they made these software changes to change so that the plane would behave with the different center of gravity and airframe performance and so on. And they didn't really properly document it and everything. That is not a question of like, well, but the Republicans said something. That's an actual series of events and decisions and so on. So I think government can be talked about in a similar way, but I don't think it would be, which I think is unfortunate, because everything turns into finger pointing and vitriol. That's too bad. Anyway, I do have the traditional anything else at the end of this, but I want to cut it short for what is probably noisy right now. So I'll apologize for that right now. But that's it. I'll probably do another episode this weekend because I probably have more to say. But I want to go outside for a quick walk, get a little exercise, and then I will be back at some other collection of things. So thanks as always for listening, and check out the profile page linking everything, buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, and you can find links and all kinds of other stuff. And yeah, and you don't have to spend any money. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. If only that was the policy everywhere, right? All right, take care. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you during the weekend sometime. Bye-bye.